What's shaking, folks? Back with another music video reaction, and we're going to watch another one from Tears for Fears, namely the video to one of their more famous songs of all time, certainly from their early period, which is to say Everybody Wants to Rule the World, a track from their sophomore album, Songs from the Big Chair, 1985. And I have actually seen this video before, but not in a long time. And as I think of it in the moment, I can only recall snippets. I remember there's a scene where Kurt is singing on what appears to be a dirt, like racing track with lots of sand blowing around. I want to say it's almost like that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where Hunter S. Thompson is like holding his beer to try to protect it from all the sand. I do remember there's a scene with someone flying a biplane like over a field, and I want to say there's also a scene where there's some folks riding ATVs out on these sand dunes. But that's all that really comes back to me in the moment, and it has been multiple years since I've seen this, so it should be a good time, and it'll be cool to see what I don't remember. But yeah, I think Kurt sounds great on the vocals. I think it has a very smooth feeling throughout, even if it does get a bit more forceful and powerful in certain moments. So let's give it a watch. This is the official music video for Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, a song from their 1985 album, Songs from the Big Chair. Indeed, I'll try not to pause too much, but if you saw that little pop-up, you'll be aware that they have put out a recent album, Songs for a Nervous Planet, so shout out to that. I think I still have one or maybe two original tracks from that to react to in audio form, as well as all the other performances on the double disc, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I didn't remember this like cinematic opening. Obviously the song hasn't started yet, and we're at what looks like more or less an average family home somewhere in the middle of the USA, maybe.
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. It's my own design. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to rule. There's a rule.
Oh, before we get that huge sonic burst, which I absolutely love, I do have to comment on this, road trip, everyone kind of traveling through not only space but also time, nothing lasts forever, and the suggestion almost again like a reference to Ozymandias King of Kings, and it's this weathered and withered statue out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I feel like there's some conceptualization going on in the visuals, but also it feels like we're on a road trip with Kurt. And let's just comment on his very flashy 80s outfit here. But yeah, ultimately I love this sonic burst of energy that comes in this middle section.
Help me make the most of
apologize to pause, but that's the line, right? That speaks to the guitar solo by Roland in Shout, where he's up on the top of the hillside, and apparently in the album version, the studio was like, nah, like we're just gonna fade there, like, we don't need that. So yeah, whether there's, multiple meanings to that line or not, I do think it's very tragic that the studio decided that should be faded or wasn't essential to the album track. It does have a bit of that random 80s, like, here's a bunch of things which you wouldn't normally connect together. A kid eating ice cream, another kid in, like, sort of like a BMX racing outfit, a couple folks in, like, some dandy clothes dancing in front of, like, seemingly a dilapidated old gas station, and then another guy sort of hot rodding on an ATV out in the middle of the desert. Like, all a bit random, all a bit 80s style, but I do love that last move where they're both sort of doing this Motown dance where they're kind of shaking their shoulders back and forth. I absolutely love that. Yeah, shout out to the drummer, absolutely killing it. Secondarily, it feels inevitable to make a lot of these Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas references, because that scene really does remind me of, Johnny Depp walking around holding the beer glass. And then earlier when Kurt was driving through the desert, I almost made the joke that, like, oh, is it backcountry? But no, apparently it's seagull country. Are those seagulls? I'm not sure actually what kind of bird that is, but that's like a really sweet image, that cutting to the bird flying in slow motion like that. I'm not sure Roland gets enough credit for his axe shredding. And another truck drives on through the night, through time and space. So yeah, I do think there's some conceptual imagery there that fits with the lines and the narrative of the tune. But again, there is a bit of that 80s, here's some random stuff that shouldn't work together but somehow does. And yeah, again, Kurt sounding great on vocals. I do love that explosion in the middle part of the track. That's, I think, my favorite part of the tune. But yeah, ultimately, the guitar work from Roland, I remembered it, but maybe not quite as dramatic as it was. So yeah, shout out to both of them. Shout out to this iconic song. And again, I'm trying to remember isn't there like a Michael Jackson song that uses that main like synth lead melody or like samples it in something? I'm trying to remember which one it is, but definitely it's a tune that I think, is famous not just for its own history, but ended up influencing other groups and even being used in sampled form as far as I know. So in any case, let me know what you think of it, and I will see you next time. Peace.